So this video is an experiment. You probably don't already know, but I have developed an automotive blog named Vroom Fume that I've had a link posted in the About portion of my YouTube channel. And basically what I do with the blog is I write about some of the most common problems plaguing our cars today, and I just research it personally, such as like what the problem is, how can the problem be avoided, if it's at all possible. I include additional resources such as owner forums, videos, PDFs of lawsuits to help consumers understand the problem more. So yeah, that's with the blog, and the purpose of this video is I'm experimenting. Like, I write the article about a specific problem, and the purpose with for this video is I'm just experimenting to see if it's worth, after writing it, having a video of me just talking about it. Maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's not, I really don't know. So this video is just an experiment to see how it all goes and if I think it's worth pursuing this by doing a video after writing it. So before I begin to the article I would like to talk about today, which is Ford's Duratec 35 and 37 and its internal water pump failure, let me just briefly give a little background about me. So my name is Ryan. I am a college student majoring in information systems and analytics since pretty much as long as I can remember. I've always had a passion for cars, for the automotive industry, basically anything that had 4 or more wheels, just the transportation industry as a whole, and that also includes some aviation as well. I am currently, well, I aspire to be an auto safety analyst. Currently, I am the secretary of my university's Data and Analytics Club, where we help local businesses in analyzing their data so they can make more informed decision making. So that's all been great. As a recent extension to the blog, another extension is I also am able to perform independent research for clients. So maybe it's your next research project or anything like that. I have a whole tab on that in my blog. It's the tab Research. If you click that, you'll learn a little more about it. There's some forms you can fill out if you're at all interested in my assistance with analyzing your data or researching, and I can get back to you on that if you fill out the form. But yeah, so one other thing is last year, I think it was last January actually, I had the opportunity to apply for an internship with NHTSA, which is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, which is a portion of the U.S. Department of Transportation, the DOT, and I was super excited about that. But unfortunately, in April, I was informed that I did not get the internship. So then, a few months later, I started this blog as kind of creating my own internship, and I've been developing it ever since. So that's just a little background about me. So today I would like to talk about so the very first article I wrote, which is Ford's 3.5 and 3.7 liter Duratec V6 and its internal water pump failure. So before I get too in depth, let me just briefly go over what it is. The 35 and the 37 is also known as Ford's Cyclone engine. It's not commonly referred to that, but That's what I've been told it's also called. It was first, or the 35 was first introduced in the 2007 model year Lincoln MKZ. That was the 35. And the 37, let's see, I might have said 37. It's the 35 that was in the Lincoln MKZ for the 2007 model year. For 2008, the 2008 Mazda CX-9 was the 37, and the 2009 Lincoln MKS. And a very close cousin is Ford's 3.5-liter EcoBoost engine, specifically the front-wheel drive, sideways mounted variant, which is essentially the exact same engine. It uses the same Duratec 35 block, but it has 2 turbochargers. So I'll go over that engine in another possibly future video. And yeah, and that's about it. I believe 2019 was around the last year they were making the transverse layout of these engines. So now I'm going to talk about what is the issue. So it is the water pump. It is internal. It's timing chain driven. The issue is that it leaks, and it can leak very early, where the coolant mixes with the crankcase oil, which is a very bad thing to happen. You never want that to happen, because that could either cause overheating, or the engine could seize up, lock up in a matter of moments or maybe minutes if you're lucky, due to the inadequate lubrication. Another thing I want to say, that these engines, they are relatively reliable. If you go on any, like, despite them having this problem, if you go on any used car site, you will find lots of them with 100,000, 200,000 miles. At one point I came across, I believe it was a 2013 MKT that had more than 300,000 miles. I'm going to assume that was the original engine. I'm sure the water pump has been changed several times. So the engine themselves, they are fairly reliable engines. They were very, very popular engines Ford and Lincoln used for the most part. But unfortunately, they decided to put the water pump inside internally. The gasket, it degrades, and the only barrier separating the coolant from the engine oil is the gasket, which eventually it will fail, and it could leak coolant inside the engine. When I was researching this, one of the things I never completely understood, there seems to be 2 versions of this water pump. And what I mean by that is, it's the water pump, but, like, the water pump's the same, but one has a single gasket design going around. The other has a double gasket design. I'm not sure why that is exactly, because when I looked at the Ford Flex forums, one person had, in 2010, when they tore it apart, it had the single gasket design, and I believe it filled around 90,000 miles. But I just saw a video of a YouTuber tearing down the 3.5-liter EcoBoost, which is, again, basically the exact same engine. That one had the double gasket design, so I'm not sure if Ford's OEM had the first gasket, but then maybe later on they developed it to have the second gasket. I'm not exactly sure about why there seems to be 2 different versions. So if you know, definitely let me know in the comments. I love to know the reason why that is, or if that's true, or the reason why that is. But yeah, and the other thing too is, like, pretty much I believe with any water pump there is a weep hole. Except the problem with the single gasket design is the weep hole, it is in a very specific area that the coolant must leak through in order for the coolant to leak on the ground, so the owner even knows there's a problem. So if the coolant leak, if it does not leak precisely where the weep hole is, the owner might not even know there's a problem. which is a very bad thing. Luckily, with the double gasket design, it circumferences the weep hole. So once the pump does begin to leak, the coolant will simply just recirculate around the pump's shape, and it will just drain directly to the weep hole, which therefore it will leak on the ground, and the owner will know that there is a problem, assuming the weep hole is not plugged up, which I've never heard of that happening before. Let me just go through my notes real quick so I cover everything. Yeah, so the double gasket is definitely a much better design. It's still not foolproof, but it definitely helps extend the engine's longevity. So if you want to own or buy a vehicle with this engine, you will run into this problem. There is no water pump that will last forever. Eventually it will fail. It doesn't matter how good you treat the car. The bad thing about this situation is you don't know when it's going to fail. I'll get to that just a little bit later. But generally, I've heard it can happen is around 60,000 miles, which is not very much time. So if you're looking at a vehicle, if it has around more than 60,000 miles, personally, I would stay away from the vehicle. I don't trust the water pump. I like the engine itself, I just don't trust the water pump. But if your heart is still set on a vehicle with that engine, I would definitely get that replaced. I would not put that repair off because it could fail at any time. It's essentially like a bomb waiting to go off in your engine. I would also assume it's the single gasket design. I wouldn't assume it's the second. Yeah, so when you're going to replace it, it's going to be about $1,000 because the pump itself is only between, I believe, like $80 to $130, but it's the labor because they have to take the whole front of the engine off. They might have to drop the engine, which that is very time consuming and expensive, so it is not a cheap repair. But if you need a new engine, that's going to be much more expensive. So it's better to spend around, I don't know, $1,500 compared to $3,000 or $4,000 to put a new engine in. So it's definitely something you don't want to put off. I would just get it done soon. Please don't put it off. Let me just go through here. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything for that. The last portion of this I want to get to, the article, is there has been class action lawsuits about this. Unfortunately, at least one of them was eventually dismissed by the judge, to my great surprise. Ford claims this pump is designed to last 150,000 miles. The problem is, like I mentioned earlier, failures can occur at around 60,000, 70,000. I even heard of a case of, I believe it was 52,000. And I believe that was a 2011 Ford Edge. So that's definitely nowhere near what Ford claims the pump should last. So I can clearly see why there's a lawsuit for this. And it's also, I believe, a very dangerous design to put it inside the engine because, you know, I mean, when the coolant leaks, it can mix with the engine oil. The engine can lock up. I believe that is what happened to one woman with her 2011 Edge. She was going down the freeway and the water pump just decided to fail, and she almost, I guess, got hit by a semi-truck, and it was just a very dangerous situation because there was just no warning at all. She was driving and then just pretty much just boom, the engine just shut off and locked up. And the reason why it's so dangerous is because you don't know when it's going to happen. It could be when you're idling at a drive-through, I don't know, at a Wendy's or McDonald's, or you can be like this one woman, perhaps traveling down the I-15 pushing 90 miles per hour. So yeah, I would say it's very dangerous. The other interesting thing too is, I guess Ford was asked about why they decided to make it internal. They claimed the engine would not fit into the vehicles it's powering had it have been designed externally. I say that's a bunch of, excuse me, BS, and the reason why is because if you look at other very similar engines, such as GM's high-feature engine, which is most commonly the 3.6 liter, Chrysler's 3.6 liter Pentastar, Toyota's 3.5 liter 2GR FE. All of those engines are very similarly sized, and some are even bigger than the 35, but they all have external pumps. So Ford's claim, it really is not that valid. I believe they could have designed it to have an external pump. They just simply chose not to. And this is just my opinion. I think they did it just so the dealers can get more money in repairs, even though it can put drivers in a very dangerous situation when it does fail, which I believe is reckless, and they should have known better. And yeah, that's basically it. So on the blog, I do have a link to the PDF of the lawsuit called Bobby Rowe and Donald M. Christensen v. Ford Motor Company, if you'd like to read more about that. So now you know the truth behind these engines and their unfortunate water pump design. If you have any questions about it, feel free to just leave a comment in this video's description or on the comment section of the article for the blog. But yeah, again, this video, it's just an experiment. I'm not sure if I'm going to do this for every other article. I'm just going to try it with this one so far. I don't know if it's worth doing this. I just thought I'd give it a try. So if you have any comments about whether you think this is a good idea or not, feel free to leave them in the description. I'd love to know what you think. And on that note, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.